Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Indonesia Pavilion and welcome to the ASEAN Side event entitled Reflection on ASEAN Chairmanship 2023 through ASEAN Joint Statement on Climate Change to the COP28. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Faraz from the Secretariat of ASEAN Working Group on Climate Change Indonesia. Since 2017, ASEAN member states has successfully held the ASEAN event at Indonesia Pavilion during COP of the UNFCCC to showcase best practices and experiences of AMS in implementing climate actions in the region. And that is exactly what we are going to discuss today. And I'm very delighted to see many familiar faces of my ASEAN colleagues here attending the session. So before we start the session, allow me to welcome the Director General of Climate Change Indonesia, Senior Advisor to the Minister of Environment and Forestry, Ibu Nur Masripatin, who will be our moderator today, distinguished speakers and response speakers, and of course, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for attending this session, and I'm very hopeful that our discussion will be fruitful. To begin the session, Her Excellency Minister of Environment and Forestry of Indonesia will deliver the opening remark through the tape video. Please watch and enjoy the video.
Colleagues of ASEAN member states, representative of the ASEAN Secretariat, partners, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon and welcome to Indonesia Pavilion. I'm delighted to open ASEAN event organized by the ASEAN Working Group on Climate Change, Secretariat of Indonesia, entitled Reflection on ASEAN Chairmanship 2023 through ASEAN Joint Statement on Climate Change to the COP28. I would like to convey my appreciation towards all my ASEAN member states colleagues, ASEAN Secretariat, and international partners for your unceasing support during Indonesia's tenure as chair of ASEAN this year, specifically in environment and forestry sector. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the Southeast Asia region is one of the world's most vulnerable regions to climate change and its adverse effects due to its long coastline, highly concentrated population, and economic centers in coastal areas, as well as heavy reliance on agriculture, fisheries, forestry, and other natural resources. The IPCC report stated that most of East and Southeast Asia are projected to experience more intense rainfall events as soon by the middle of the 21st century, where flood risks will become more frequent and severe, affecting people's livelihoods. Furthermore, the impact of slow onset events such as droughts are consistent and becoming predominant on the agriculture sector. The agricultural drought caused 60% of the total losses, arising mostly from the various natural disasters of about 86.5 billion US dollar in the region, while 22.5% and 14.3% are due to flood and cyclone respectively. In responding to these circumstances and the complex, multifaceted, and severe threat of climate change to humanity, ASEAN has been working diligently, among others, through the ASEAN Working Group on Climate Change to address these challenges. Collectively, every year, the ASEAN member states, through the ASEAN Working Group on Climate Change, draft the ASEAN Joint Statement to the UNFCCC COP, led by the chairman of ASEAN, to demonstrate ASEAN's commitment to address climate change issue in the region. This year, Indonesia, as the chairman of ASEAN, led the drafting of the ASEAN Joint Statement to the UNFCCC COP28, which then adopted by the ASEAN leaders at the 43rd ASEAN Summit in Jakarta on the 5th September 2023. It is with the spirit of unity and cooperation that is embedded within the ASEAN Way, we can conclude the ASEAN Joint Statement as one of Indonesia's deliverables this year. This statement is in line with the theme of ASEAN Chairmanship 2023 ASEAN Matters Epicentrum of Growth, which shows Indonesia's focus on strengthening concrete cooperation and holding various collaborations. The intention behind this is to enable countries in Southeast Asia to remain centers of economic growth with the potential of surpass global economic growth. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, through the statement, ASEAN member states emphasize the need for countries to revisit and strengthen their 2030 targets in the National Development Goals by the end of 2023, aligning with the Paris Agreement temperature goal. It is also calls for communication of long-term, low greenhouse gases emission development strategies, engaging in the Sharm-el-Sheikh mitigation ambition and implementation program, improving adaptation to climate change, increasing gender-responsive implementation, recognizing children and youth as catalysts for change, ensuring the global goal on adaptation, promoting low-emission technologies, and incorporating ocean-based climate action in national climate goals. It also calls for the identification of means of implementation in each country, including funding, capacity building, and technology requirements. The statement also calls for the adoption of recommendation from the Transitional Committee on the operationalization of loss and damage funding arrangement and fund to assist developing countries in responding to climate change adverse effects. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, ASEAN member states also urge developed country parties to provide enhanced implementation support for developing countries in mitigation and adaptation, fulfill their commitment to provide $100 billion annually by 2023, and increase climate finance beyond this by 2025. They must also provide sufficient climate finance to various financial mechanisms, including the ASEAN Catalytic Green Finance Facility, Green Climate Fund, Global Environment Facility, Adaptation Fund, and Least Developed Country Fund, taking the needs of developing countries into account. They must also lead in raising mitigation ambition, support the capacity building initiative for transparency, and support ASEAN member states in developing adaptation plans. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, to close my remark, I want to re-emphasize to all parties to strengthen their 2030 targets in NDCs to align with the Paris Agreement temperature goal by the end of 2023. We also urge developed country parties to provide more financial, technological, and capacity support to ASEAN member states in a timely, coordinated, sustainable, and gender-responsive manner for better understanding the impacts of climate change at regional, national, and the local level to achieve climate commitments. Finally, we acknowledge the importance of non-party stakeholders' engagement in climate change action, the interface of science and policy in climate change-related decision-making process, and advancing low greenhouse gases emissions, green, and climate resilient development. Thank you very much for your attention. Please enjoy participating in this talk show, and hopefully you will get benefit from this activity. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
We would like to send our highest appreciation to Her Excellency Minister of Environment and Forestry for delivering the remark. Up to the next agenda, we would like to invite to the stage our moderator today, Ibu Nur Masripatin, and the speakers. First to Ms. Wukir Amintari Rukmi, Deputy Director of Climate Change Convention, representing Dr. Wahyu Marjaka, who unfortunately cannot join us today due to the health issue. Second one is Mr. Ahmad Zayumedin Halbi, the head of Brunei Climate Change Secretariat. And to Mr. Thomas Nivin Luri, Director of Forest and Land Fire Management, Ministry of Environment and Forestry, Republic of Indonesia. I will now give the floor to Ibu Nur Masripatin to lead the discussion. Ibu, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Ibu Farah. Colleague, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Welcome to the presentation and discussion for our session this afternoon. After following the opening remarks by Her Excellency, the Minister of Environment and Forestry of Indonesia, in the effort of strengthening the visibility of ASEAN in the international fora, we will have three presentations from three distinguished speakers that already introduced by moderator. After the presentation, there will be a response from three distinguished invitees representing different institutions. Colleague, Southeast ASEAN countries have played very strategic roles in climate negotiation under UNFCCC in forestry, especially REDD+, and currently agriculture. As mentioned by the Minister of Environment and Forestry in her opening remarks, that every year ASEAN also prepare ASEAN a joint statement on climate change for COP that cover all areas of ASEAN member states' concern, reflecting commitment, progress, and challenges, as well as expectation to global community. ASEAN has also established some related centers residing in ASEAN member states. Today at this session, our distinguished speakers will share with us the message from the ASEAN Joint Statement on Climate Change, information on ASEAN Center of Climate Change, and ASEAN Center for Transboundary Haze Pollution Control. We have 20 minutes for three presentations, so it will be appreciated if each presenter could finish the presentation within 6 minutes at the most. And then later we will have a response from our three distinguished invitees. So first I would like to invite Ibu Wukir Rukmi, already introduced earlier, that will share with us about the ASEAN Joint Statement on Climate Change. So Bu Wukir, feel free to speak in the podium or from here.
Thank you, Dr. Nur. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Dear distinguished ladies and gentlemen, distinguished our colleague speakers, Pak Thomas, Pak Halbi. Good afternoon. May I have sit here? Okay. Thank you very much. Dear participants, at the outside, I would like to regret to inform, as our Master of Ceremony mentioned, that I represent here the Director Wahyu. He is not being able to attend here due to health issue. On this occasion, I would like to present briefly on the ASEAN Joint Statement on Climate Change. Allow me to inform briefly on the process. ASEAN Joint Statement on Climate Change, as also Dr. Noor mentioned, this document developed annually by ASEAN Working Group on Climate Change to share position and views of ASEAN regarding on global climate change and policy. And the document is usually drafted by the member states who hold the ASEAN Chairmanship. And this year, Indonesia holds the ASEAN Chairmanship 2023. And the first draft was distributed to ASEAN ASEAN member states on the third week of May. And since that, review and input have been provided by ASEAN member states and bodies under the ASEAN. And the process is through the 3 rounds of review. The draft was approved by ASEAN member states through offline consultation meetings on July the 1st and successfully received endorsement at the 34th of ASEAN meeting, 17th meeting of ASEAN Ministerial Meeting on Environment, and finally adopted in the summit meeting, the 43rd of summit meeting in September 5. And the document itself, the document itself is divided into 3 parts. The first part is opening section, and the opening section contains references that we utilize to refer on the previously agreed documents. And the other references documents related to climate change issues. These previously agreed documents are particularly at ASEAN framework. This opening section also highlights several previous UNFCCC Cup results, including several results from Intergovernmental Panel Climate Change. In this section, the document is addressed on several points, such as the ASEAN member states, on the commitment of ASEAN member states to achieve the UNFCCC and Paris Agreement goals by holding principle of CBDRRC. That's the first important point. And another point is ASEAN is also enhancing climate actions and cooperation in accordance with the global development of climate change related agenda. This includes leveraging existing mechanisms under the ASEAN, such as ASEAN Agreement on Disaster Management and Emergency Responses, and also ASEAN Declaration on Strengthening Adaptation and Drought. Another point that in this document also point out that regarding the sustainable forest management and social forestry development, also promoted. This includes implementing UNFCCC decision on reducing emissions from deforestation and forest degradation. Another point is ASEAN is also working towards achieving substantial progress in clean, renewable energy and energy efficiency. Excuse me. Okay. And another important points that we also the excuse me. No, no. Yes, yeah. We also welcoming progress made towards the establishment of ASEAN Center for Climate Change in Brunei Darussalam. And we also address another important key message regarding the grave concern about the persistent rise and losses and damages associated with climate change impacts. And the statement also recognizes the negative impacts of climate change on basic human needs, which is particularly impacted on vulnerable groups. That's the first part of document. And the second part, the most important point is on the calls for all the all parties of UNFCCC and Paris Agreement, as well as calls for developed countries. The text calls on parties, general and UNFCCC and Paris Agreement, as mentioned by Her Excellency Minister for Environment and Forestry, that's to revisit and strengthen the 2030 targets and the NDC by the end of 2030, as decided by decision first of CMF4. Another point is ASEAN member states also views the importance of nature-based solution and ecosystem-based approach to enhance climate change adaptation. The statement also calls on the importance of inclusion of children and youth in climate policy action, enhancing climate change awareness through education, and considering young representative negotiators in national delegation. And how many minutes more, Bu? How many minutes more? Okay. And through and finally, on the closing section, the statement also reiterates the calls to all parties to strengthen the targets, the commitments, and also urges the partners, developing countries, to provide means of implementation, financial, technological, and capacity support to ASEAN member states for better understanding and climate change impact and advancing low GHG emission. And before I close the presentation, on behalf of Director Wahyu, I would like to express our gratitude, our thanks to our colleague from ASEAN member states in supporting the statement, the document, and as well as to ASEAN Secretariat in coordinating, and finally, our partners GIZ for the assistance. Thank you very much, and back to Dr. Nun. Thank you.
Thank you, Ibu Wukir. Colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, as we heard from Ibu Wukir presentation, she shared about how is the process and mechanism in ASEAN in preparing a collective document. And then also the substantive aspect of the joint submission, responding what is under the negotiation, what ASEAN call for action for global communities, developed countries, and ourselves. The next, I would like to invite Pak Ahmad Zainuddin Halbi to share with us about ASEAN Climate Change Center.
Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum and good afternoon. Thank you very much for having me here. I realize I'm competing with the noise outside, so hopefully you can hear me clearly. First of all, thank you to for the Indonesian delegation for having me here in Indonesia, not Dubai. I was invited last year but didn't get a chance to speak, so thank you for having me back. Thank you to the ASEAN Secretariat and also thank you to GIZ for helping put this together. So I'm here to talk about the ASEAN Center for Climate Change. But before I do, I just want to set the scene for those who might not be that familiar with ASEAN. So back in 2021, these were some of the statistics that we pulled out. In terms of the population in ASEAN, there were around just under 670 million people. And in terms of the density, it's around 150 people per square kilometer. To put that into context, the global average for population density is only 58 per square kilometer. So in terms of ASEAN, we're 3 times higher. And this is spread out over a geography of 4.5 million square kilometers, 173,000 kilometers of coastline, and just under 450 million people within ASEAN live within 100 kilometers of the coastline. And what we all know, as we heard from Her Excellency Minister, that the impacts of climate change, such as sea level rise, droughts, it will affect this population. And to put that into context, in terms of ASEAN, it's one of the fastest growing economies. The GDP is 3.3 trillion US dollars in 2021, and it's rapidly rising as well. If we were to do nothing with regards to climate change, the ASEAN Development Bank has forecasted that this GDP could shrink by 11% by 2050. So it's against this context and backdrop that Brunei decided, in its chairmanship of ASEAN in 2021, that we commit to developing and establishing the ASEAN Center for Climate Change. That way we safeguard this vibrant culture, this wealth of diversity within the region, and protect it against climate change. So one thing to note, ASEAN itself, we're committed to tackling climate change. So all 10 ASEAN member states, we've made our commitments, be they in the form of net zero, carbon neutrality. But one thing to be mindful of is the different starting points for each country, but also the different circumstances. So we're here on a climate change conference, and we go by the Article 3 of CBDRRC. The advantages, of course, of ASEAN, I'm not ashamed to say I pulled this from the ASEAN Carbon Neutrality Strategy. Number one, the gap to neutrality for ASEAN is manageable compared to the bigger groups. Secondly, as you can see around here, a lot of greenery. There's massive nature-based potential within the region, which helps us offset our emissions, but at the same time also provide opportunities for commercialization. The third one is the complementarity of the region. Different regions have different advantages, and we can allow ourselves to have an earlier launch pad because of this. And lastly, growing access to capital in the region. But that's not without its risks. So as I mentioned earlier, the cost of doing nothing is actually a lot more. And that's why the GDP could shrink if we were to do nothing. Secondly, if we did not commit to mitigating and adapting towards climate change, we risk having to suffer through greater costs to pay for the impacts of climate change. And also the risk of fragmentation within a very close-knit community because it all becomes nationally driven. So it's these things where it's really important to put climate change at the forefront of everything that we do. So the function of the Climate Change Center, the idea is for it to be this intergovernmental center for regional collaboration on climate change. It will be an area where we envisage it does policy coordination, lessons learned sharing, publications, and eventually consulting. But this is the potential areas that we believe the ASEAN Center for Climate Change can be of benefit to the region. We've seen and we've heard from Her Excellency Minister what has come out in the ASEAN Joint Statement for Climate Change. And at the ASEAN Working Group level, we talked about this, and we realized that this center could be the one that can also help the host country for ASEAN that year in putting this together with all the key focus areas that ASEAN is working on. In terms of the governance of the ACCC, so we essentially ourselves and the ASEAN Center for Biodiversity will be brothers and sisters. We'll be governed by the ASOEN, the ASEAN Senior Officials on Environment. At this point in time, the secretariat that I lead, we're the project managers for this center. But once the center does become operational, it will be handed off to ASEAN, where we will have an interim executive director leading it. And the interim will be a Bruneian for the first 18 months towards stabilization, just to make sure that there are boots on the ground and making sure that all the institutional framework and operationalization mechanisms are in place. But we don't want to work in silos, so we do work with the environment working groups, and not just with the AWGCC, even in the thank you. Even in the inception of the ACCC, the establishment agreement, the concept note, we did it in consultation with ASEAN, which just shows the strong collaborative nature within the region. So this is just a brief timeline of what we've achieved so far. So I fast-forwarded 2021 and 2022, but earlier this year, we've completed the draft for the establishment agreement. In August, at the sidelines of the ASEAN Ministerial Meeting on Environment, we've also got this endorsed along together with the ACC THPC, so congratulations to them as well. It's endorsed at the ministerial level, and we had the handover ceremony of the signed document. Of course, we haven't received all signatures just yet, so we are working closely with ASEAN to push this through and then begin the ratification process. In parallel, we've already identified where the center is going to be, which will be at a local university, for the hub of research and for it to be a catalytic area for students to be excited about climate change. And hopefully within this time frame of Q1, Q2 next year, not only do we finish the refurbishment, hopefully we get the signatures and also appoint the ED in that time. I know there's been rumors about who the person will be. If you were to ask me, I'm not going to confirm, nor am I going to deny who it is, but you can try. You can buy me coffee and we can have a conversation. And lastly, because of the importance of climate change, it's good that not just ASEAN, but other dialogue partners have really shown keen interest. So primarily GIZ, through platforms such as these, through execution of the ASEAN Climate Change Strategic Action Plan, as well as other dialogue partners have already stepped forward and really offered their support. I want to say thank you to them if they're here or if they're not. So for example, New Zealand's already pledged $500,000 New Zealand dollars purely for the sake of research. We've also had in-kind support from the US to really help set up the center, and KEI from Korea, NCSC in China. So really thank you, and we're not short of support. So if there's anything from the climate change space that can benefit the region, we have a buffet to choose from. I'll stop there, but I'll save it for some Q&A after this. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Pa Ahmad, for sharing with us about ASEAN Center for Climate Change that is located in Brunei Darussalam. This is important, and the presentation was really informative, especially for colleagues who do not know much about ASEAN. This about geography, population, GDP, the map of our commitment in terms of NDC and net zero emission target, also the progress of operationalization of the center. Thank you once again. Now I would like to invite Pa Thomas, who will share with us the same thing, hopefully, about ASEAN Coordinating Center on transboundary his pollution control. Pak Thomas, if you could finish your presentation within 5 minutes. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, ma'am, Bunur, for giving me the floor. I would like to begin by saying the linkage and relevance of ASEAN Joint Statement on Climate Change to the ACC THPC. We thank you, ASEAN Secretariat, in particular Indonesia as the ASEAN Chair in 2023 in facilitating the consultation process in finalizing the ASEAN Joint Statement on Climate Change that involved all ASEAN member states since the early year of 2023. The drafting processes of joint statement took time in a few meetings and endorsed during the ASEAN and MA meeting in Lawn PDR, and finally adopted in ASEAN Summit September 2023. The ASEAN Joint Statement, as mentioned before, that consists of three sections: the opening section, the content, and the closing sections. I would like to address the opening section of the ASEAN Joint Statement on Climate Change that remind all the member states to address the issue of climate change that in line with the result of COP, UNFCCC, and some result of the IPCC. The IMS, the ASEAN member state committed in handling climate change issue globally, including in Southeast Asia region. And ASEAN continually carried out consultation process to strengthen its climate resilience, and this commitment can be seen within the governance structure of the ACC-TIPC, within the governance structure of ASEAN and ASOVIC's working group on climate change in place, and regularly having consultation process and strengthen collaboration in addressing the issues of climate change. In line with that, Indonesia, together with the ASEAN member state, committed to implement in the Global Environment Agreement, including in carrying out implementation action agreed by the ASEAN member state related to comprehensive policy on climate change, in particular dealing with the land and forest fire that may trigger transboundary haze pollution. The ASEAN member state also committed to fully support the implementation of Paris Agreement through the NDC policy, National Determined Contribution Policy of each member state according to their capacity. In dealing with land and forest fire, Indonesia fully support the implementation of Paris Agreement through its NDC and mitigation and adaptation of climate change policy. Among others, Indonesia ratified the Paris Agreement with the Law number 16/2016 concerning the national determined contribution that consists of five sectors: forest and other land use, energy, transportations, waste, and industry. Indonesia also issued the presidential decree number 98/2021 and ministerial decree number 21 in 2023 concerning carbon management. Another regulation and policy, presidential instruction number 3 in 2020 concerning management of land and forest fire. And lastly, ministerial decree on Indonesia Voluntary 2030. In the content section of the ASEAN Joint Statement on Climate Change, Indonesia applied a new paradigm in dealing with land and forest fire by strengthening its national policy and management that covering policy at national level, subnational, and also in the unit management. Permanently solutions covering climate overview and information systems, task force management, as well as landscape management. With the new paradigm during Mr. President Joko Widodo administration, Indonesia could successfully manage land and forest fire properly and subsequently avoiding transboundary haze pollution phenomena in 2023. Land and forest fire could be significantly decreased by 30% in 2023 compared to wildfire in 2019 where phenomena of El Nino in place. And Indonesia saw a strong commitment together with ASEAN member states in handling land and forest fire in the region. It is therefore lesson learned and leading by example that Indonesia have reached, and within the support from ASEAN Secretariat, all ASEAN member states and international organizations, Indonesia is fully confident in hosting the SSA-THP. Another important issue in the content section of ASEAN joint statements is concerning about the financial support that has been discussed and development. Bilateral cooperation with ASEAN EU, GIZ SUPA, sustainable use on peatland and haze mitigation in ASEAN, managing cooperation with partners countries such as Australia and other states, ASEAN investment framework on haze-free sustainable management, and also exploring potential financial support from the global mechanism. In the closing section of the ASEAN Joint Statement on Climate Change, Indonesia as the host for ACCT-HPC will carry out facilitation, coordination process function in monitoring, assessment, and joint emergency response, technical cooperations, and information knowledge and management. This is in line with the role of and function in the governance structure of ACCT-HPC. And together with the Asian Specialist Meteorological Center, Singapore will strengthen the role of ACCT-HPC in the region. We appreciate and thanks to our partners, GIZ SUPA, that providing financial support in the early stage to run the operational of ACCT-HPC, providing services, also consultation work and studies. And Indonesia also providing office space and logistic, national budgetary and supporting operational for the ACCT-HPC. Potential financial support explored such as Asian THPC funding, we call it HAZE Fund, and others through global mechanism. Indonesia thanking ASEAN Secretariat in acting as the interim secretariat of ACCT-HPC presently and up to THPC fully support and operational. Some information in the presentations concerning the process, the long process and negotiation of the establishment agreement on ACCT-HPC. It's been long process, and I recognize Bunur as one of the men behind the gun who finalized this establishment agreement. And thank you for all the leading negotiator of all ASEAN member states who facilitate the process with a strong and full energy and a lot of thoughts, and come up with the ASEAN agreed on ASEAN establishment of ASEAN Center for Transboundary Haze Pollution. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Pak Thomas, for sharing with us about the journey of ACCT-HPCC. That's a very long journey, and finally we get there. Colleague, now is the time for our three distinguished invitees to give response, comment, recommendation for us for the future steps. We have here Dr. Fong Sok, the head of division on environment of ASEAN Secretariat. Dr. Fong Sok has a long history in engaging in the discussion of ASEAN Center of Transboundary Haze Pollution Control. We have also Ms. Julie Amoroso-Garbin, Regional Lead, Regional Climate Center Asia Pacific, the UNFCCC Regional Center. We have also Ms. Maria Pudi, Head of Program Climate Policy Support, GIC. So if you could please give your comment, each of you 5 minutes, starting from Dr. Fong Sok, and then Ms. Julie and Ms. Maria. Please, Dr. Fong Sok, the floor is yours. Yeah, you could please come to the podium. Yes, so that all of us could see.
Hello, good afternoon. I think now come to the point we discuss ASEAN Chairmanship 2023, and we see this key substantive progress during 2023. And I'm not sure, I just would like to recall what is ASEAN Chairmanship 2023 SIM mean for all of you. Some of you may not be remember what is ASEAN Chairmanship SIM for 2023. We had the ASEAN Chairmanship 2023, Indonesian put ASEAN matter epicentrum of growth. What it does mean? It means something now. The three speakers point out the key issue of ASEAN in relation to climate change. One of those is ASEAN Joint Statement on Climate Change. Try to provide you all that key issue, what is the view and perspective of ASEAN member states, and also the call for action. This not only for ASEAN member states, but also collective from the global sort of support. Second thing, ASEAN Center for Climate Change. This is the way ASEAN prioritize and try to make more action on climate action that we need to make a difference for our region. This is the way ASEAN matter, isn't it? The third, ASEAN Coordinating Center for Transboundary Haze Pollution Control. Because haze really problematic here and there, and we put a lot of effort. Now, the 2023 under ASEAN Chairmanship of Indonesia, we realized this establishment of ASEAN Center for Coordination Center for Transboundary Haze Pollution. So I mean, this is quite substantive from 2023 ASEAN Chairmanship of Indonesia. So I think with that, the key point forward, I think right now, this establishment and cooperation with all in order to achieve at this point, it may not be enough. There are a lot of things to do. As pointed out by all our colleagues about operationalization of the two centers, to translate policy, to translate whatever strategy into action. How we can go about to make that action work? I think it's not ASEAN Secretary alone. I can put that frame. Of course, we will stand ready to support and work with you all to facilitate, coordinate, and to mobilize or to engage any stakeholder. But one of the most important is all of your action. So what it means that you can support and engage with both centers. We believe the center is not set up one point and then it's close the door. No, this open up the opportunity for you to engage and do more. If you want to realize haze-free region, now the time for you to take step forward. Similarly, if you want to see the climate action NDC target and whatever the monitoring, coordination, engagement, now the center in place. So if you're not happy in the past, now the time for you to express you're unhappy to the solution base to support the two center. And with that, the continuous engagement with ASEAN Statement on Climate Change, I believe this really opportunity also for you to share whatever the view on the climate change in the region, what collectively we can do, individually we can do. All may not be answered one time, but the way we continue to improve and also engage each other, we strongly believe this will make a difference for our society. With that, I believe under your leadership and particularly Dr. Noor that involved a lot in negotiation in the past. I recognize her contribution very much to that negotiation. Thank you to her support. She made significant contribution, I tell you. And I'm just at the back door, ASEAN Secretariat tried to support. And some of you really active. I see some of you there that have been involved a lot in negotiation here and there for the establishment center. This ASEAN matter that we work together, we accept the differences, and we move forward, even slow, but we get our objective. And also we try to make this to achieve our climate and haze-free region. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Fong Sok. Yes, slow, but sure, we reached there. So, Ms. Julie.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. First of all, thank you so much for inviting the UNFCCC Regional Collaboration Center and making this reaction and reflection to the ASEAN Joint Statement on Climate Change. Um, the UNFCCC Secretariat applaud the leadership of the ASEAN through Indonesia's chairmanship in advancing regional collaboration to address this global challenge. We acknowledge the comprehensive and forward-thinking ASEAN joint statement on climate change put forth by the member states of ASEAN during the 43rd ASEAN Summit. As you have seen, the commitment and actions outlined in the statement reflect a robust response to the urgent climate challenges that the world faces today. Let me go into specific sort of observations to the joint statement. In terms of the recognition of global concerns, we are very happy to see that the ASEAN member states have reiterated and expressed the profound concern regarding the continuing rise in global greenhouse gas emissions, climate risks, and their impacts. We know for sure that it aligns well in the UNFCCC's commitment to addressing the overarching issues highlighted in the sixth assessment report of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. We also took note of the emphasis on ambitious climate actions. And we know that the need for ambitious climate actions, including mitigation, adaptation, means of implementation, resonates with the central objectives of the UNFCCC and the Paris Agreement. The recognition of the critical gap between current efforts and the pathways outlined in international agreements underscores the urgency for collective action. Let me go into the ASEAN's role in terms of global climate change. We are happy to see that the commitment to enhancing climate actions within ASEAN, including through the ASEAN Working Group on Climate Change Action Plan, reflects a proactive stance in contributing to global climate efforts. The emphasis on cooperation, the consideration of national circumstances, is vital for fostering a collaborative international response. And the UNFCCC Regional Collaboration Center for Asia and the Pacific continues to support the ASEAN countries through the working group. In terms of resilience and disaster management, the commitment to strengthening ASEAN's capabilities to address climate-related disasters, leveraging mechanisms like the ASEAN Agreement on Disaster Management and Emergency Response, aligns seamlessly with the UNFCCC's expectation of robust national and regional strategies for resilience and disaster risk reduction. The national adaptation plans, as the central vehicle for planning and implementation for adaptation actions at the national level, can play a huge role in harnessing regional approaches for addressing transboundary climate risks. The emphasis on sustainable forest management, clean and renewable energy, and cross-pillar cooperation on sustainable finance aligns with the broader UNFCCC goals of achieving sustainable development and transitioning to a low-carbon economy. In terms of strengthening collaboration, we noted that the ASEAN joint statement on climate change have put emphasis on the global peaking and mitigation action. And in this regard, the UNFCCC Regional Collaboration Center for Asia and the Pacific would want to reiterate that we stand ready to support ASEAN member states within the workstream of the UNFCCC to offer technical expertise, capacity building initiatives, and collaborative projects to achieve global peaking of global greenhouse gas emissions and scale up mitigation ambitions. We also took note of the recognition of the importance of human rights, gender equality, and the engagement of youth, private sector, vulnerable groups, local communities, and indigenous peoples. And these aligns well with the UNFCCC's commitment to inclusive and participatory climate action. And it's noteworthy that ASEAN upholds these principles. We would like to express our admiration and support for the bold and forward-thinking initiatives undertaken by the ASEAN member states in establishing two pivotal entities. One is the ASEAN Center for Climate Change and the ASEAN Coordinating Center for Transboundary Haze Pollution Control. Let me focus on the ASEAN Center for Climate Change. We also applaud the leadership of Brunei Darussalam in establishing the center. It reflects a visionary approach towards fostering intergovernmental coordination and cooperation among ASEAN member states. The functions of the center, including being a regional knowledge hub, publishing best practices, and establishing a standardized forecasting tool, demonstrate a commitment to building a robust foundation for addressing climate change challenges collectively. We look forward to working together in fostering synergies and knowledge exchange for enhanced climate action. In conclusion, the UNFCCC Secretariat, through the Regional Collaboration Center, welcomes the proactive and collaborative stance of ASEAN member states as outlined in the Joint Statement on Climate Change. The commitment to ambitious climate actions, coupled with the emphasis on differentiated responsibilities and collaborative international efforts, positions ASEAN as a key partner in the global fight against climate change. And as mentioned, the establishment of the Climate Change Center and the THPC exemplifies ASEAN's commitment to proactive and collaborative climate action. We know that these institutions will play an important role in enhancing regional resilience, knowledge sharing, and response mechanisms. The UNFCCC look forward to continued collaboration and mutual support in these endeavors. As a final note, we wanted to reiterate our commitment. As you know, the UNFCCC, again, the UNFCCC Regional Collaboration Center is the UNFCCC Secretariat's presence in the region. We are located in Bangkok, and we are very happy that we have been working very closely with the ASEAN Secretariat on many aspects of the work towards climate change. And so we stand ready to support the ASEAN member states, and we look forward to continued collaboration and meaningful contribution from ASEAN in accelerating the implementation of the Paris Agreement. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Julie, for your comment to the joint statement and also for the two centers. Now I would like to invite Ms. Maria.
Thank you so much. And first of all, thank you so much for inviting me to the session. To be honest, I'm very happy. I used to live and work in Jakarta for 4.5 years, so happy to be back again. So GIZ, as the German Development Agency for International Cooperation, that is very active on behalf of the German government, welcomes the ASEAN joint statement at the COP28. Calling for an ambitious and urgent climate action, particularly in the area of mitigation, adaptation, and finance. This aligns with Germany's own efforts to enhance climate action and cooperation, particularly in loss and damage. So, for example, Germany, along with other countries and members of the D7 and V20, launched the Global Shield against climate risk last year. And this year, together with UAE, and other countries, Germany made its own pledge of $100 million US to the newly operationalized Loss and Damage Fund. So furthermore, GIZ also congratulates ASEAN members states on the establishment of the ASEAN Center for Climate Change. Under the ASEAN German Climate Action Program, we look forward to having the collaboration with the center in place. So ASEAN and Germany have recently identified priorities under the ASEAN-Germany Development Partnership with a view towards implementation of the ASEAN-Germany Practical Cooperation Areas for 2023 to 2027. So since climate change is a key area for cooperation, in addition to relevant sectors like agriculture, forestry, land use and waste management, climate mainstream is a key intervention area that we will continue doing. So GIZ, through the ASEAN German Climate Action Program, has also committed to support the center during its establishment and to strengthen the region in addressing the issue of climate change. In line with this, GIZ looks forward to the continuing of the support of the ASEAN Coordinating Center for Transboundary Haze Pollution Control. There's so much to build on, with a long history of cooperation between Germany and ASEAN on the issue of haze pollution, particularly through the sustainable use of peatland and haze mitigation in ASEAN program, which started in 2017. All in all, GIZ is impressed with how the region focuses on its commonalities among ASEAN member states to come up with a joint statement and institutional attempts to establish ASEAN centers. To support the work in tackling climate change with such level of commitment from the region, GIZ will show no less of commitment and will be proactive and cooperate closely in supporting ASEAN and its member states. Thank you so much. Terima kasih banyak.
Thank you very much, Ms. Maria. Colleague, ladies and gentlemen, the schedule for the session is very tight. We have only 5 minutes before I have to return the floor to the MC for closing remark by Ibu Director General of Climate Change. But before I hand over the floor to the MC, I would like to give opportunity 1 minute each to my colleague speakers to give a closing statement. Yeah, Bu Wukir.
Thank you, Dr. Noor. First of all, I would like to thank to all three response speakers for sharing the positive reviews, particularly from the views from Dr. Julie on the ASEAN Joint Statement. And my final point is only that based on ASEAN spirit, as Dr. Fong Sok mentioned, that we expect ASEAN member states strengthening cooperation and collaboration and receive and achieve substantive progress next year. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much to Dr. Wong Sok, Dr. Julie, and Maria. I think from our side, it's just the beauty of ASEAN, I think, is what we want to safeguard, right? I think not just the people, but the environment. Understandably, there's different national circumstances and different starting points with different end games. But I believe, if we work together, we'll be able to safeguard the home that we know and love. So I'd say for all of us here, it should always be collaboration and not competition. Thank you.
Thank you for the advice and from the three observer and response speaker, especially to the establishment of ASEAN Coordinating Center for Transboundary Pollution Control. And I think Indonesia would like to invite all the ASEAN member states to put attention on the very important aspect in dealing with how to prevent the land and forest fire management. So we invite all the collaboration and potential partners to working together in handling the land and forest fire in the ASEAN region, so that our vision our vision to reach the ASEAN free haze could be achieved. Thank you and so much. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Pak Thomas. Thank you, Ibu Wukir, Pak Ahmad, Pak Thomas, Dr. Fong Sok, Ibu Yuli, and Ibu Maria. Dear colleague participant, apology that we don't have time to take up question from the floor, but hopefully this session useful for all of us. Thank you very much, and I hand over the floor to MC.
Thank you so much for Dr. Nur Masribatin, Ibu Wukir, Bapak Zaim, and Bapak Thomas, and the response speakers for the very fruitful discussion today. We please you to come back to the seats. And we would like to invite Ibu Laksmi Dewanti, Director General of Climate Change of the Ministry of Environment and Forestry of the Republic of Indonesia, to give the closing remark. To Ibu Laksmi, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Faras. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. May the peace and blessing of Allah upon us. Distinguished delegates, speakers, participants, ladies and gentlemen. Well, my time is very short, so I shall be brief. Let me reiterate what the Minister Siti Nurbaya mentioned at the very beginning of this session, that our region, ASEAN region, is one of the world's most vulnerable regions to climate change, and its adverse impact due to its long coastline, high concentration of populations, economic activities, especially in coastal area, and heavy reliance on agriculture, fisheries, forestry, and natural resources. Noting the broad implications of climate change into the region, ASEAN leaders agree to strengthen ASEAN resilience against the future shocks, including climate and disasters resilience, by mainstreaming the climate agenda and disaster risk management among ASEAN cooperation area. This session simply reflects the spirit of ASEAN in strengthening its effort, and very much in line with the spirit of COP28 presidency themes: act, deliver, and unite. So, three remarkable efforts or deliverables of this ASEAN chairmanship, namely the ASEAN Joint Statement on Climate Change to the COP UNFCCC 28, the ASEAN Climate Change Center, and the ASEAN Coordinating Center for Transboundary Haze Pollution Control are among several initiatives that has been taken by the ASEAN member states to strengthen the climate change actions within the regions. I'm sure that there are many more initiatives rather than only deliverables that we are talking about this session. So again, in line with the spirit of ASEAN and the spirit of this COP28, I would like to call all the ASEAN member states and all the UNFCCC parties join hand in hand, like how we do in ASEAN way, to create a more collaborative and ambitious climate cooperations in the region and in the world. So again, I would like to thank and appreciate all the speakers, distinguished colleagues, and all the partners, not only who happen join this session, but I'm sure to everybody who would like to join hand in hand with ASEAN, with everybody of us here, to continue our effort, to continue our spirit, and to keep the spirit high in responding the climate change disasters, which is one of the triple crisis planetary that we are having now. So again, thank you very much for your collaboration, for your spirit. Let us wish everybody to be held and to keep the spirit high, to act, deliver, and unite. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Ibu Laksmi, for delivering the remarks. And just a moment, Ibu Laksmi, because we are going to the very final session of today's side event. And in regard to that, I would like to invite again Ibu Dr. Nur Masribatin, the distinguished speakers and also response speakers to come to the stage again, because we have some small token of appreciations from our office. To Ibu Moderator, speakers and response speakers.